Hey guys, welcome back. In this video, we're going to look at how to respond to keyboard events. This is going to be a lot like responding to mouse events, which we covered in a previous video. First, we're going to have to implement the interface. Secondly, we're going to have to capture the keyboard event. And finally, we're going to have to react to the keyboard event. So let's get started. Okay, so you can see that we're back here in our project, and just like before, I'm going to implement an interface. This one is going to be the key listener interface. And once I've done that, we will go ahead and have IntelliJ implement the methods that we need to satisfy this interface. There's only three this time: key typed, key pressed, and key released. Go ahead and click OK. And there are the method signatures down there: key typed, key pressed, key released. So we're just going to focus on key pressed. This will give your game a more responsive feel than if we went with key released or key typed. And you can see that this time we're being passed a key event, not a mouse event, still named E. You could rename that to key event if you want, or just event, but I'm going to go ahead and leave it with an E. And the idea is that we are going to look for the arrow keys in this example. If it's an up arrow, we're going to change the direction to up, down arrow down, etc. Of course, before we can start filling in these methods, we're going to need to add a key listener to our program. So I'm going to scroll back up to our constructor up here. This is very similar to the mouse listener that we had to add earlier. Clicking in here, I'm going to go ahead and add a key listener this time. And because we are implementing the key listener interface, it is okay to type in the keyword this, which refers to ourselves. And it turns out in the case of keyboard events, you need to do a little bit more than just add the key listener. You also need to do something back in main. So I'm going to click over here on our drawing demo. And in the constructor here for the drawing demo, we need to do something to the canvas panel before we add it. We need to warn Java that this canvas panel might get what's called the focus, which is the attention from the operating system. This can occur when keyboard events happen, and we need to basically build our app with that in mind. So the command is canvas dot, and you want to choose set focusable. That's one of the methods that you can choose. And in here you want to say true. It is off by default, and this will change it to true. So down here in the key pressed event, we're going to try and react to a key that was pressed. You know what? Before we do that, though, I'm going to take out some of the debugging code I had earlier in action performed. Just going to comment out this calling action performed on a timer. That can be a little bit distracting when we're testing for key events and mouse events. Once that's done, we can go back to key pressed and start filling it in. And what we want to do is react, say, to the up arrow. So we want to say something like if E dot, and we've got a lot of choices here. There's a lot of information that's sent as part of the event. But what we want to choose is getting the ASCII code from that event. So I'm going to choose get key code. And we want to say something like, if the key code that you sent me is the up arrow. Sorry about that. But unfortunately, this ASCII code obviously not sent as a string, probably sent as an int. We could go ahead and look up the ASCII code for that up arrow, but that's probably a little too much work. It turns out that Java has a lot of these ASCII codes built into a special library that is stored in key event itself. And when you press key event dot, each of these codes is stored as a virtual key. So I'm going to press VK, and you can see I've got a whole list of choices here. You could look for numbers, you could look for letters. Here's the letter B, ASCII code 42. Of course, that's in hex. And what we want to choose is VK up, which is the up arrow. So this if statement says if the key code that they just pressed is equal to the up arrow, we'll do something really basic like print out you pressed the up arrow, so proud of you. And we'll go ahead and reformat our code so it looks nice. And let's go ahead and run our program. So you can see that my mouse clicked is still working just fine. I'm getting messages, you click the mouse. I'm going to go ahead and try some keys now. I'm going to press the A key, the S key, the D key. Those are not responding. However, when I press that up arrow key, you can see that now I am responding to the up arrow. So obviously that's not what we want to have happen. We don't want to be printing out to the console when they press the up arrow, but we want to maybe move the circles or triangles in the up direction. To do this, we are going to need to create a private field. This is very similar to what we did for the mouse event. So I will go ahead and say direction in the Y direction will be equal to, let's say, 1 by default. And when they press the up arrow, we will make this -1 to get the circles or the triangles to move up. So there's our field created. Now time to move them. So you can see here that the triangles, we were setting their X location, the circles we were setting their X location to just the regular. Now we're going to go ahead and react to that up arrow. So we're going to say something along the lines of if direction of Y double equals, let's say 1, this will be the default. We will say do nothing. Don't move them. However, else if the direction of Y equals -1, we will go ahead and tell every single circle to change its Y location to -10. Remember that -10, the direction is negative if we want to move up in the Y location. So I'll need some curly braces here. I'm going to put some curly braces there because I got a lot going on here. Java's not happy with the fact that I have an if statement that is empty, so I had to put curly braces there in order to get rid of that arrow. And I will simply loop over all the circles, and I will say, hey, Y location, you will be Y location, and we will say -10. So let's go ahead and see what that might look like. Oh, I forgot to do one thing. I forgot to change direction if they press key up. So here I'm going to press the up arrow. I'm still going to keep my debugging code in just to make sure that everything is working. And I will flip the Y to -1. And we'll go ahead and run that. So you can see that the mouse clicked is still moving. You can see that I can press any keys that I want, nothing happens, but when I press that up arrow key, the circle direction is changed to up and they start moving up the screen instead of across. And that's keyboard events. I hope you found that helpful. In our next video, we're going to take a look at collision detection. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.